to Strictly Sports. I am Jacob Brown. Today we're going to do our Toronto Blue Jays 2020 season preview. Joined here with Stephen Cashin. Yes, we have much better audio today. Yesterday was pretty terrible. We apologize for that, but we're back on the grind here with these mics, and we're getting these pods done as we're finishing off the AL East this week. But these are the Toronto Blue Jays. They were 67 and 95 last season. Who did they add? Who did they lose? And then after that, we'll go into the lineup, bench rotation, bullpen prospects. So they lost Justin Smoke in free agency. He went to the Brewers. Catcher Luke Maile went to the Pirates. They lost reliever Derek Law, longtime second baseman Devin Travis. He was a guy, basically, he was there for a long time, can never stay healthy, though. They also lost Clay Buchholz and Clayton Richard, and then infielder Breivik Valera. Who did they add? They added Hyun-jin Ryu on a 4-year, $80 million contract to be the ace of that starting rotation. They added Shun Yamaguchi from Japan as a reliever, added third baseman, first baseman Travis Shaw, starting pitcher Tanner Roark on a 2-year, $24 million deal from Oakland. They added Chase Anderson in a trade with the Brewers. He's a starting pitcher. And then they added relievers Rafael Dolis and relief pitcher Anthony Bass on waivers. So let's look at that lineup. And this is how I designed it. This is the way I think it would flow the best. Leading off playing shortstop, Bo Bichette. He's 22 years old. He was a top prospect, son of Dante Bichette. He had 11 home runs, 21 ribbies, and a .384 WOBA in 46 games in the bigs. Then Cavan Biggio, son of Craig Biggio, Hall of Famer. He's batting second at 25 years old. He had 16 home runs and 48 RBIs in 100 games. Then Vladimir Guerrero Jr., batting third and playing third. He had 15 home runs and 69 RBIs in 123 games. And no one can forget that home run derby last year. Absolutely crazy, that home run derby. Then I have Lourdes Gurriel Jr., brother of Yuli Gurriel on the Astros. I have him cleaning up and playing left field. He had 20 home runs in 84 games. Then I have Teoscar Hernandez batting fifth and playing right field, 26 home runs in 125 games. Then I have Travis Shaw. This is a guy, he really struggled last year in 86 games with the Brewers, but the season before that, 32 bombs, 86 RBIs. If they can get that guy, that would be huge for the Blue Jays. Then I have Randall Grichuk playing center field and batting seventh, Rowdy Tellez batting eighth and DHing, and then I have Danny Jansen, the catcher, batting ninth. And to be honest with you, I might have had Reese McGuire, the catcher, hitting ninth, but he kind of had an incident with playing with himself in his car and he got arrested. So I guess I'll stop there with the details, but he might have been in my starting lineup if not for that. So if you look at this lineup, Steven, what do you think about it? Very young.
It's a lot of youth in this lineup, kind of like the Orioles you talked about yesterday. You got some pieces here with Bo Bichette and Guerrero Jr., even Biggio, who I like a whole lot. So guys who have shown they can produce at the big league level. Bo Bichette is a guy he gets on base. He really doesn't have really too many poor at bats. Doesn't strike out a whole lot. Weighted runs created plus is at 142, well above league average. Vlad Jr., I like his power. I mean, that you talk about the home run derby last year, a guy who can really, he's pure. His swing it's just like his dad's. And his strikeout percentage is only at 17%. Yeah, you'd think it's kind of high for a rookie, but I mean, he gets those down. He works on his at-bats, his approach a little bit better, and he's going to be one of the guys in the league that's like an Aaron Judge type caliber where when he gets up to bat, he's a tough out to get. I mean, you can't really get the ball by him. I remember the Chapman and Guerrero battle they had last year in Toronto, a 13-pitch at bat, and he was just trying to throw things by him and couldn't. But you got guys here that can really move you along in the future. I look at Gurriel Jr., 26 years old. He still has really good production, 20 homers, 50 RBIs. Teoscar Hernandez, another guy who can give you some production in that middle of the lineup. 7, 8, 9 to me are pieces you need to work on, even going to Travis Shaw. If you can get the 2018 Shaw, then you are in good shape. But Grichuk, Tellez, and Jansen, you can kind of mix and match with the guys on the bench there. But 1 through 6 is pretty solid, in my opinion. You've got some young guys, and if you get them some more experience in the big leagues, you'll be looking at a solid roster in the next coming years. But there's still a lot of work to be done, and they'll obviously tackle that as the year gets on here.
Yeah, and even though Randall Grichuk struggled, 81 weighted run created plus, 307 WOBA, that's below league average, he still hit 31 home runs with 80 RBIs. So He hit 232. It's a problem with average, and it's a problem with walking and getting those strikeouts down. So even though he's below league average, I still don't have a problem having a guy hitting 30 bombs in my 7 hole. That's pretty good. So, but yeah, Travis Shaw really, he's the wild card to this lineup because if you can get a left-handed power bat in your 6 spot, and if he's 2018 Shaw, I would even say he should hit cleanup, and then you bump Gurriel down to that 5 hole, Hernandez down to that 6 hole, because again, if you can get a left-handed power bat with 30 bombs, that's someone you want in the middle of your order. So he's the huge X factor to this Blue Jays lineup. But I really, Bo Bichette, Biggio, and Guerrero Jr., they're going to be, the 3 core hitters of this lineup for a long time, and probably Gurriel Jr. as well. They're all 26 or under. Vlad's 21, Biggio 25, Bichette 22. I love Bichette. I mean, if he keeps up these numbers, 384 WOBA, 142 weighted run created plus, he could be a top shortstop in the bigs. Kevin Biggio could very well be a top 10 second baseman in Major League Baseball by the end of the year. 343 WOBA, 114 weighted run created plus. Those are good stats. They're both above league average. Vlad Jr., I know that he's better than a 105 weighted run created plus. He's got superstar potential. So I love the potential and the ceiling of this Blue Jays lineup. Kind of reminds me of some other teams that we've gone over, the Padres, the White Sox, in the sense that if some of these young hitters get going, they might shock some people.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it from the whole team dynamic. They're average on paper, but like you said, you get guys that pan out, give them more experience, give them more at bats. They can really surprise some teams, and it happens in baseball. You just think you're going to come out and say, oh, well, they're the Blue Jays. Well, they don't have the superstar guys that have been around as long, but you get the production from guys like I said, Grichuk, Bichette, again, Biggio, Guerrero. They do the same thing they did in their first couple years. Look out, because you're going to get that 1, 2, 3 production, and then you get a few more pieces to fall in line. Gurriel produces a little bit more, and then you get you get Tellez going. So I look at it and saying, like, if all the pieces fall into place, they're like they could be a sleeper team. Not saying they're going to go on some crazy run and make the playoffs, but they're going to be in contention longer than people expect. A team that won 67 games, improve maybe to the mid-70 mark this year if they get the right things going. You added some pitching. You got Hyun-jin Ryu, so not a bad team. They're a team that competes. They play you hard every time that you go up against them. So not a team to really particularly sleep on. Like I said, everything goes into effect the right way. Look out. This team isn't a pushover at all.
And I think especially in division too, when you're playing them 19 times a year, they become a nag. When you have to play a team like this 19 times and those young hitters start to get used to your pitchers, you don't want to play them a lot during the regular season. Now, we'll discuss this in our AL playoff pod, which comes out on Sunday, but we probably won't have the AL East this year. It'll be some different realigned format. But either way, I mean, they're going to be playing some team a lot. And when they play teams a lot, those hitters can become naggy on your pitchers. And, you look at this bench too. They do have Derek Fisher there. He's a guy that was a prospect outfielder with the Astros, kind of got pushed out. Maybe he's a guy that later in the year, if Grichuk is still not performing well, maybe you throw Fisher out in center field, or if Gurriel or Hernandez is struggling, or maybe if Shaw is still struggling, you mix around positions or whatever. But Derek Fisher is certainly a guy that can get in there. They also have Billy McKinney, Brandon Drury. Brandon Drury's kind of a guy, I think his time's kind of passed as kind of being a starting type of guy. Hasn't really had that big of a year since like 2016, 2017. And then, like I said, the issues with Reese McGuire behind the dish. But I do like this Blue Jays lineup. But they've got pieces. And, at the end of the day, if they get Randall Grichuk to do maybe league average production, if Tellez can get to league average, which isn't much of a stretch, you could be saying 8 hitters in this lineup are league average or better. I like that if I'm a Blue Jays fan. So now we move on to this rotation. And this is where, honestly, it gets interesting because they have a lot of different moving pieces. Right now, obviously, Hyun-jin Ryu would be the dude. 33 years old, 29 games started last year, 2.32 ERA, 3.10 FIP, strikes out around 8 per 9, walks around 1.18, home runs under 1 at 0.84 per 9. Now, when I looked at his stats this year, I was like, wait a second, this kind of came out of nowhere, It actually didn't. In 2018, 15 games started, 1.97 ERA. So he was still an ace in 2018. 2017, 3.77 ERA. So if the Blue Jays are getting anywhere in between that 2.32 ERA and that 3.7 guy, they're getting what they paid for. Then Tanner Roark in the 2 spot, 4.35 ERA. Chase Anderson, 4.21 ERA with the Brewers in 27 starts. Then you have Matt Shoemaker. He's been up and down with injuries, hasn't had a full season since 2016. And then that 5th spot in the rotation is going to be a battle. It can either be Ryan Barucki, who 3.87 ERA in 2018. I like him. Mixes in his stuff. They have Trent Thornton, 26 years old. Number 8 MLB prospect Nate Pearson that can make it. They have Anthony Kay, 25 years old, that can make it. Or they could have Jacob Wagerspack as that 5th starter as well. So you look at this rotation. Maybe it's not the best, but it's certainly deep.
Yeah, it's not, obviously top 5 caliber, but it's something you can work with. And that's the key. I mean, we talk about it with every rotation we've gone over. It's like there's the good, the elite, there's the elite bracket, there's the average, and there's just 50 feet of shit. Right here, they're in that middle of the average group, right, where they can work with things. They did a nice job in getting Ryu in the offseason, solidifying that, that ace spot that they've been looking for the last few years to complement and try to win some games. You look at Tanner Roark, Chase Anderson, Matt Shoemaker, guys who aren't bad. They can give you a quality start, not asking for, something, ace worthy every 5th day, but enough where I can get 5 or 6 innings out of you and really kind of saving my bullpen. I look at Matt Shoemaker's numbers, and like I said, he's been battling injuries the last few years and trying to find consistency in his game. But when he's on point and he's healthy, he shows he can be the guy. I mean, last year 3-0 with the 1.57 ERA in 5 games started. So you were seeing some good things from him until he battles that injury bug. And then I look at the 5th spot, and you have so many guys who you can interchange in that 5th rotation spot, and that's a good thing to have. It's not a bad problem to encounter, because some of these guys you can maybe move to the bullpen and try them out there, or throw a couple guys into a starting role and see how they embrace that impact on the team. So I look at this rotation, and they can win you some games. I say with Ryu, you can win maybe, I think, 10 more games, 10 extra games in a season. And that's huge. And one pitcher can do that with the stuff he has. So nice signing there. You have a lot of things to work with, 3 through 5. So I really like what they did in the offseason, getting Ryu and really trying to build something of a rotation.
Yeah, and they got, Roark and Chase Anderson as well. And the thing that I look at with this rotation is you see the ages. Ryu's locked up on a contract. He's 33. There's no moving that age. But Tanner Roark, 2-year deal, they'll have him as a 33, 34, maybe a little bit as a 35-year-old. Chase Anderson on a 1-year deal, 32 years old. Matt Shoemaker, 33 years old. But when I look at those pitchers competing for the 5th spot, Ryan Barucki in his mid-20s, Trent Thornton, 26, Nate Pearson, 23, Anthony Kay, 25. Those are guys that they're going to be in this rotation probably 2021, 2022. So I actually really like this. They have these mid-30s guys as placeholders this year, while they have those 20-year-olds kind of developing right now. And I actually really like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so I think a trend too, like with the ages of pitchers now, you're seeing in this day and age is like signing them on shorter deals and, kind of bridging them year in and year out, which is a good thing with the ages of some of these guys. Like now with all the advanced, workouts and stuff pitchers are using, 32, 33-year-olds, they're going to be on bridge deals, and you're going to you don't want them on these locked up like 5-6 year stretches and you're stuck with them. So I like, what they've got going here on this Blue Jays roster. You got guys that have a mix of youth and a mix of veteran like caliber on this team with Ryu and Shoemaker, 33, mid-30s. So I like the dynamic of this team, the mix of the ages, so you have a lot to play with. You don't have to lock guys up on deals. You have a lot of young guys that they pan out. Yeah, then they show they can do it. Then sign them to a 5-year deal, and you have them solidified on your team. But that's how I look at this Blue Jays pitching staff as a whole.
Yeah, and the key guys to me, number 8 prospect Nate Pearson and Anthony Kay, Anthony Kay came over in the deal for Marcus Stroman in that trade in
Hmm.
the midseason. So he's no schlub. This guy's supposed to be legit. So when I'm looking at this rotation 2021, you could be saying Ryu, Roark, Baraki, Pearson, and Kay. And that's actually a really good five. And if some of these hitters develop in 2020, I kind of look at this 2020 for the Blue Jays. This is the middleman year. This is the transition year. This is the year where everyone develops, and then 2021 is where the pieces kind of fall into place. Maybe not playoffs 2021, but 2022 I'm looking at for this Blue Jays team. They should be a playoff competitor.
Yeah, exactly. You look at trends too. You look at a 4-year window for each team, and last year they won 67 games. So you look at it. This is the year, like you said, transition, make that next step up, get to maybe mid 70 wins. Then the year after, you're looking at 80, potentially a mid 80s, 90 wins. So it's making a step up every year. It's not, oh, we're going to be playoff contenders right away. It's a slow, gradual pace you got to get to be where you want to be. You're not going to wake up one day and be, a Los Angeles Dodgers or a New York Yankees. Go down the line. You're not just going to wake up with that talent. They're in the right direction. You have hitters on that lineup that can really do damage. You're starting to get pitching and guys that are developing and gonna be in that rotation 1-2 years. So you look at it this year, try to make the most of this season, get better. Then next year you can really have legit aspirations to be a contender and maybe sneak into the playoffs somehow. Then the following year, who knows where they could be. So I like what they've done, the structure around this Blue Jays team, and good things to come for them.
Yeah, and mentioning, and I'll skip over the bullpen really quickly just to make this point. The Blue Jays have the number 98 prospect in baseball, right-handed pitcher, 19 years old, Simeon Woods Richardson. He's on the way too. So you talk about that young pitching potential. They've got a guy in the top 100 on the way, 19 years old. So maybe he's a guy 3 or 4 years away. And when you look at that minor league system, it's number 18 in the bigs, according to our guest system. They have a 60 APR, that's average prospect rating. So that means all three of their prospects average out to be about the 60th rated guy. So that's middle of the pack. And then they have a 50 TPRP, which is total prospect rating points. You get that from adding up the averages of all the other players. So you get that top 10 points with Nate Pearson because he's number 8. The number 75 prospect shortstop, Jordan Grosshands. This is a guy I look at. He was drafted number 12 overall in 2018, 20 years old as a shortstop. Clearly, Bo Bichette is the guy. They have their second baseman with Biggio. They have their third baseman with Guerrero. Unless Grosshands is switching positions, this is probably a guy that's going to be traded at some point. And then they have Woods Richardson. So what do you think about their minor league system?
Yeah, I look at Groshans, and it's like, you're kind of landlocked, and we've seen that with a few teams where you have young talent that has really panned out and is showing that they're going to be long-term Blue Jays or long-term players on a franchise. And like I said, unless he turns into like he wants to embrace and play a right field position or a left field, we've seen guys in previous years, like for example, like a Sean Rodriguez guy, like where he comes out and he transitions, or a Ben Zobrist even.
Right.
Went to Chicago and he played second base, he played left field, played right field. You can embrace that role and be a platoon guy. I don't know if some guys want to do that. They want to be an everyday shortstop or second baseman, but you can learn how to play some outfield. And if you want to really stay on this team and and contribute, you're gonna have to find another place to play or find another home. Not a bad problem for the Blue Jays to have because you can really use them in a deal. But I like this farm system. They have some pieces here. They have starting pitching. They have infield assets. Pitching on the way behind what they have in the fifth spot already with their prospects there. So, you really have a lot to work with, and you can use those as trade bait and try to build your team. We've seen that with a few teams already that we've covered. So I like as a whole, they have youth and they're trending in the right direction, which is what you want to see. They're not, left out to dry. So.
And they're rare too. I mean, we've done all these teams now. There's not a lot of teams that have prospects on both sides of the ball developing at the same time. And even though they're middle of the pack at number 18, they've got pitchers and they've got hitters coming. And that's something I really like seeing out of an organization. So now we look at this bullpen. We skipped over it before. So you look at it. Now, I don't know if all these guys are going to make the pen. In the American League now with the 26-man rosters, it looks like you can probably have about an 8-man bullpen with a 4-man bench. So Justin Miller, they signed to a minor league deal. Maybe he makes the pen. They have Sean Reed Foley. They might keep him in the minors. He's kind of a guy that's a starter. Maybe they want him in AAA, that just in case there's an injury, they have a guy that can eat up innings. They have Jordan Romano, Thomas Pannone, Wilmer Font. You know him from the Rays. He bounced around a little bit. Sam Gaviglio. They signed Shun Yamaguchi from Japan. Anthony Bass had a good year with Seattle. But the real big guy in this bullpen is Ken Giles, the closer. 23 saves, 1.87 ERA, 14 strikeouts per nine, under 1 home runs per nine, which we've said throughout these pods. That's an elite number at .85. So I look at this pen. You have Bass, possibly Yamaguchi, Gaviglio, Font, Giles. There's some guys that you can mix and match in this bullpen.
Yeah, I look at it. Who are going to be your solid 4 guys? And I look at it would be Giles, Bass, Yamaguchi, and then you have kind of some wild cards with the 4th, 5th kind of guys you're going to mix in around with Font. I think you look at Romano too. I like his stuff. But Font, when he was healthy, something I noticed was he's got sharp stuff, and
yeah,
he can really dominate when he's healthy. But injuries have been a problem, so that's where you kind of look at it. Well, if he can he stay and be that guy in the bullpen role? You're going to experience a lot of load management, and you're going to be asked a lot day in and day out. So he's one guy you can look for, but you can really dice it up any way you want with this Blue Jay staff. But Giles is going to eat up a ton of innings. I think going and get Yamaguchi, he's going to eat up a ton as well. Bass, and even look at Romano. Those guys are going to be really shuffled in and out in different ways. Giles is obviously your closer. He's going to be the guy. When he's on, his stuff is really difficult to hit. So they got some good pieces that you can really win some games with this bullpen. Like I said, with this new format we've got laid out here, it's going to be interesting for each team to really kind of adjust to that, because it's going to be a sprint to the finish. You're not playing 162 games. You want to put the best guys out there that you can. So it'll be very interesting to see who they go with and want to ride out into the sunset with.
Yeah, and another thing with that bullpen too, like you mentioned a few minutes ago, some of those starting pitchers might end up in there too. You know, they might throw in an Anthony Kay to start the season in a bullpen, or a Wagisback. I know Trent Thornton for sure spent a lot of time in that bullpen last year. And at 26 years old, maybe they're saying a guy that can throw mid-90s with a good breaking pitch, let's just stuff him in the bullpen. So you never know what their plans are for that. And, I look at this Blue Jays team top to bottom. Good, young, promising, on-the-rise lineup. Rotation that's kind of going to be steady this year, building for the future. And you have a bullpen that can kind of get things done on a one-year basis, because, you have Bass, mid-90s with good stuff. Gaviglio, mid-90s, good stuff. Wilmer Font, mid-90s, good stuff. So that's what you want in a bullpen. You want guys like that. And another thing about Wilmer Font, I don't know if the Blue Jays would use this, but Wilmer Font was an opener a lot last year too, for the Rays and Mets when he bounced between those two teams. So that's definitely a perk that comes along with Wilmer Font. But I think that covers the basis here for this Blue Jays team, other than our ratings and where they're going to finish in the division. So I guess for an offseason, I'd have to give them a B. They added Hyun-jin Ryu, Tanner Roark, Chase Anderson. You add 3/5 of a rotation. That's a bonus in my book. You add Anthony Bass, who in this particular bullpen, he's a 7, 8, 9 guy. Shun Yamaguchi, same thing. You get Travis Shaw. He's potentially your Justin Smoke replacement with that power from, the left side. And I get it. Justin Smoke's a switch hitter too, but it's still left-handed power. So yeah, I give it a B grade, and I think they'll finish over the Red Sox, and you'll hear why in the Red Sox pod tomorrow. But I think they finish over the Red Sox in 3rd place in the AL East, if there's an AL East this season. What about you, Steven?
Yeah, I'd give them a B grade as well. They did a nice job. They kind of got their ace. They got their guy, one of the bigger fishes on the market. So you landed him, and you really solidified that rotation. You have good young talent on this lineup already. So they really they elevated their game with their pitching staff, and that's why I have them, along with you, finishing 3rd place. Do I think it's by a wide margin? No, but I think they have enough youth on this team and they have enough pitching to really overtake the Red Sox. The Red Sox are really struggling in the pitching department. We'll get to that in tomorrow's episode, but I just think that this team has enough, and that people are sleeping on them a lot, and they can really do some damage if you really don't give them then enough respect that they deserve. And I have them finishing third place in the East.
Yeah, because I look at it and it's like the things that we've been saying on this pod, they're not stretches. I mean, it's not a stretch to say that Travis Shaw is going to go back to what he was. It's not a stretch to say that Guerrero is going to get better and become a superstar level player because that's what he's supposed to be. Bichette and Biggio and Gurriel Jr., they're supposed to be this good. So these are not huge steps into some fantasy land. These players can really contribute and really develop into the players that we're thinking they can. So I do think they're a third place team. But this is our Blue Jays pod. You'll get our Red Sox one tomorrow. The day after that, you'll get our Tampa Bay Rays, then the New York Yankees, and then our AL playoff pod. And that's how the schedule will go. For Stephen Cashin, I am Jacob Brown. You can follow us on Twitter at Strict Sports FAU. Listen to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more. And for this edition of Strictly Sports, I am Jacob Brown, and we will see you next time.